"You're too soft, John. Giving up your land won't make you a hero," his brother once scoffed, a farmer rooted in duty, blind to the trap one choice would spring. That crisp dusk, he watched cops storm his fields, their boots stomping through his honest life. Soon, shadowy figures crept closer, their whispers hinting at a betrayal he couldn't unsee. Hello everyone. Welcome to Narrative Whispers. Today I'm going to tell you another heartwarming story, so let's dive into it. John Carter had always been known throughout the small farming community as a man of quiet dignity and unwavering generosity. From the break of dawn, he rose with a steady resolve, tending to the rolling fields that had been in his family for generations. His days were marked not by the pursuit of personal profit but by a deep-rooted sense of duty to his land, to his neighbors, and to the nation he loved. When the military approached him with a request to use a portion of his farmland for training exercises, most in the village eyed the proposal with suspicion or greed. Yet John saw it differently. To him, offering his land was a way to support those who safeguarded the country. Rather than selling out to the highest bidder, he welcomed the military presence, ensuring that every drill and maneuver left a subtle mark on his fields, a testament to his selflessness and loyalty. His modest farmhouse, surrounded by neatly plowed rows and weathered barns, became a symbol of quiet patriotism. As the seasons passed, the rumble of military vehicles became a familiar backdrop to his daily life, intertwining with the hum of nature and the rustle of golden wheat. In a world where personal gain often overshadowed community spirit, John's choice to serve a greater cause earned him respect and admiration. Even as his neighbors whispered about his unusual generosity, there was an unspoken acknowledgement that John Carter's heart belonged to something far larger than mere wealth. His farm was not just a source of sustenance. It was a living, breathing act of service, where every furrow dug and seed sown carried the promise of a better tomorrow for everyone. Life on John's farm moved with the gentle rhythm of the seasons. Early mornings were spent walking among the dew-kissed fields, his weathered boots crunching on the rich, dark soil as he inspected the progress of his crops. The village, with its cobbled streets and centuries-old cottages, thrived on traditions passed down through generations. Neighbors would often stop by to exchange news or to lend a hand during the harvest, their conversations warm and familiar. In the midst of this rustic tranquility, the military's periodic exercises served as a reminder of a world beyond the boundaries of the farmland, a world of duty, discipline, and sometimes sacrifice. Captain David Turner, a man whose John Carter had always been known throughout the small farming community as a man of quiet dignity and unwavering generosity. From the break of dawn, he rose with a steady resolve, tending to the rolling fields that had been in his family for generations. His days were marked not by the pursuit of personal profit but by a deep-rooted sense of duty to his land, to his neighbors, and to the nation he loved. When the military approached him with a request to use a portion of his farmland for training exercises, most in the village eyed the proposal with suspicion or greed. Yet John saw it differently. To him, offering his land was a way to support those who safeguarded the country. Rather than selling out to the highest bidder, he welcomed the military presence, ensuring that every drill and maneuver left a subtle mark on his fields, a testament to his selflessness and loyalty. His modest farmhouse, surrounded by neatly plowed rows and weathered barns, became a symbol of quiet patriotism. As the seasons passed, the rumble of military vehicles became a familiar backdrop to his daily life, intertwining with the hum of nature and the rustle of golden wheat. In a world where personal gain often overshadowed community spirit, John's choice to serve a greater cause earned him respect and admiration. Even as his neighbors whispered about his unusual generosity, there was an unspoken acknowledgement that John Carter's heart belonged to something far larger than mere wealth. His farm was not just a source of sustenance. It was a living, breathing act of service, where every furrow dug and seed sown carried the promise of a better tomorrow for everyone. Life on John's farm moved with the gentle rhythm of the seasons. Early mornings were spent walking among the dew-kissed fields, his weathered boots crunching on the rich, dark soil as he inspected the progress of his crops. The village, with its cobbled streets and centuries-old cottages, thrived on traditions passed down through generations. Neighbors would often stop by to exchange news or to lend a hand during the harvest, their conversations warm and familiar. In the midst of this rustic tranquility, the military's periodic exercises served as a reminder of a world beyond the boundaries of the farmland, a world of duty, discipline, and sometimes sacrifice. Captain David Turner, a man whose calm authority and genuine respect for the local way of life made him a favorite among the soldiers, often visited John's property. He would arrive in a well-worn jeep, exchanging a firm handshake with John and a few kind words that affirmed the trust between them. "Your land is our training ground, John," Captain Turner would say with a smile. "And it stands as a testament to your unwavering support for our country." For John, these visits were a blend of duty and honor. They spoke of a mutual understanding between a humble farmer and the military, both dedicated to preserving the values that knit their community together. Even as he sowed seeds in the fertile soil or repaired an old barn door, John's thoughts were often with the soldiers who practiced on his land, a silent communion of respect, where the simple act of sharing his property transcended the everyday challenges of rural life, barely above a whisper. Meanwhile, outside the precinct, news of the raid and subsequent arrest began to ripple through the community. Neighbors who once greeted him with warm smiles now exchanged worried glances. At the heart of the turmoil was the discovery of bundles of cash hidden in the depths of his farmhouse. Money that John had never seen in his life, let alone earned by honest means. The officers, guided by a rigid legal framework and perhaps influenced by external pressures, seemed convinced that John's generosity was a cover for illicit activities. Yet, as he sat there, John clung to a quiet conviction that truth would eventually prevail. The stark reality of his situation was compounded by the realization that forces beyond his control were at play. In his mind, he replayed every moment of his life on the farm, the countless hours spent nurturing his crops, the countless gestures of goodwill toward the military, and wondered how all of it had somehow been twisted into evidence against him. The seeds of doubt were planted in the hearts of many, and John feared that the very community he had long cherished was now turning its back on him. News of John Carter's arrest quickly reached Captain David Turner, who had grown to respect the humble farmer not only for his generosity, but also for the integrity with which he managed his land. Captain Turner, a man known for his level-headed judgment and deep-rooted sense of justice, couldn't believe that such a devoted servant of the nation could be implicated in a crime of this nature. He immediately set off in his jeep, determined to get to the bottom of the matter. Arriving at the police station, the captain requested a meeting with the investigating officers, his tone firm yet respectful. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding," he insisted. "John Carter has served our military with unwavering loyalty, and I can vouch for his character and integrity." In the interim, Captain Turner arranged for a visit to John's holding cell. There, amid the cold concrete and biting silence, the captain spoke gently to the distraught farmer. "John, I believe you. I've known you long enough to know that you would never betray the trust placed in you. We'll get to the truth of this." As Turner left the precinct, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. His instincts told him that the discovery of the cash on John's property was not the result of any nefarious act on the farmer's part, but rather the work of those who resented his altruism. Meanwhile, back at the station, whispers of suspicion and jealousy began to circulate. Whispers that pointed to a conspiracy orchestrated by a handful of local farmers whose envy had driven them to frame a man whose only crime was his unwavering commitment to serving the nation. Captain Turner vowed to expose the truth, determined to restore justice to John and the community alike. In the days following the arrest, a careful investigation was launched. The police, operating under increasing public and media scrutiny, began to examine every inch of John Carter's property. But as the probing inquiries unfolded, Captain Turner's steady presence continued to shine through, prompting a parallel investigation on the military's side. Turner gathered evidence and testimonies from those who had regularly visited the farm. Several soldiers recalled the warm, welcoming atmosphere of John's land, an environment where training exercises were conducted with respect and safety in mind. "John's farm has always been a place of integrity," one soldier remarked. Turner's determination grew as he learned that the cash discovered at the scene was meticulously arranged in bundles, almost as if deliberately placed. The precision with which the money was hidden raised suspicions among the investigating team. It wasn't long before hints of a conspiracy began to surface. Rumors reached Turner that a group of local farmers, long envious of John's reputation and his willingness to support the military without expecting anything in return, had hatched a plot. Their motive was clear: tarnish John's name and seize control of a community resource that had always been beyond reproach. Turner met discreetly with trusted members of the community, gathering whispered confessions and small but telling details that painted a picture of envy and greed. "I've seen suspicious vehicles near John's farm at odd hours," one local recalled softly, her voice tinged with regret. As the investigation deepened, the military's involvement grew stronger, and it became evident that the planted money was a carefully orchestrated attempt to frame a man whose only fault was his selfless service. With evidence mounting, Turner prepared to confront the conspirators and bring the truth into the light. While the investigation gathered momentum, the community's reaction to John's arrest was mixed with disbelief and sorrow. Friends and neighbors who had long admired his character were now burdened with the weight of uncertainty. In a quiet town meeting held at the local community hall, murmurs of discontent filled the air as residents discussed the disturbing turn of events. "John has always been one of us," declared Mary Thompson, a lifelong resident, as she addressed the crowd. "How can this be happening?" Her voice resonated with both anger and sadness. At the same time, the conspirators, hidden among the very people who once celebrated John's kindness, grew increasingly anxious. Their plan to frame him had worked too well initially. The planted cash had served its purpose, and now their own secrets were at risk of unraveling. Meanwhile, in the police station, John sat silently in his cell, his thoughts a tangled mixture of confusion, betrayal, and a stubborn hope for vindication. He recalled the countless times he had opened his fields and home to those in need, never imagining that his goodwill could be manipulated for nefarious ends. The weight of injustice pressed upon him, but even in the depths of despair, John's spirit remained unbroken. As days turned into nights, and the investigation progressed, the steady work of uncovering the truth continued unabated. Captain Turner and his team meticulously pieced together evidence, drawing a clearer picture of the orchestrated conspiracy. Every statement, every small clue pointed toward the envy and greed of a few who had believed that tarnishing John's name would somehow enrich their own standing. The community, too, began to question the narrative that had been forced upon them, their eyes slowly opening to the possibility that the real culprits were lurking among their own neighbors. The turning point in the investigation came on a brisk winter morning when Captain Turner and his team, bolstered by testimony from a brave local informant, obtained concrete evidence that linked the planted cash to a group of disgruntled farmers. Detailed records, surveillance footage from nearby security cameras, and accounts from previously reluctant witnesses began to converge into a damning mosaic of deception. Turner, determined to clear John Carter's name, organized a meeting with senior police officials and military representatives. In a tense conference room at the local police headquarters, he laid out the evidence. "This isn't the act of a criminal. It's the work of a few who were driven by jealousy," Turner asserted, his voice firm and unwavering. "John's farm has always been open and honest, and now we have proof that these funds were planted here to frame him." As the meeting progressed, details emerged about clandestine meetings between the conspirators. They had met under the cover of darkness, orchestrating their plan with a cold precision that shocked everyone present. "I never imagined that envy could lead to such betrayal," one official remarked, his tone heavy with disillusionment. Turner's findings were then forwarded to higher authorities, who authorized a full-scale investigation into the activities of the implicated farmers. In the meantime, the military made a public statement emphasizing John's long record of selfless service. The captain reiterated that the funds had not originated from John's hard work, but were instead a ploy to undermine a man who had given so much to protect the community. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, a renewed sense of determination filled the room. The truth was now within reach, and the wheels of justice had begun to turn, setting the stage for the exposure of the conspirators and the eventual exoneration of a man who had long embodied the spirit of selflessness. With the mounting evidence in hand, law enforcement moved swiftly to round up the conspirators. Under the cover of a chilly evening, police vehicles quietly surrounded the residences of those implicated in the plot. Among those apprehended were a small circle of local farmers, men who had harbored deep-seated resentment toward John Carter's generosity, and who had conspired to undermine his reputation. One by one, these individuals were taken into custody, their arrests sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community. The following day, a press conference was held at the police station, where Captain Turner and local officials addressed the media. "The evidence is clear," Turner announced confidently. "The money found on John Carter's property was planted by those with a personal vendetta against him. Today, we have arrested those responsible for this deliberate act of deceit." The public announcement was met with a mixture of relief and outrage. Residents who had doubted John's integrity now rallied around him, their support echoing through the streets of the village. Local community leaders expressed their shock at the betrayal by a few who had once been considered trusted neighbors. In the midst of the commotion, John Carter remained a picture of quiet resilience. Though he had endured the humiliation of an arrest, his dignity and steadfast commitment to his values had not wavered. In a small statement issued by his family, John reiterated his belief in the power of truth and the importance of community trust. The arrest of the conspirators marked a turning point, a moment when justice began to correct the course of a narrative that had long been marred by envy and suspicion. In the wake of the arrests, the process of exonerating John Carter gained momentum. As the investigation unfolded, the evidence against him was conclusively disproven, and the full extent of the conspiracy came into public view. Senior officials from both the police department and military issued a joint statement, affirming John's unblemished record and praising his long-standing service to the nation. John Carter's actions have always been driven by a selfless commitment to our community and our country. The statement read, "We deeply regret the distress caused by this unfounded investigation and offer our sincerest apologies." Across the village, the news was met with a mixture of relief and remorse. Many who had once cast wary glances now expressed heartfelt apologies for having doubted him. At a formal ceremony held in the town hall, local officials publicly exonerated John, presenting him with a certificate of honor that recognized not only his contributions to military training but also his unwavering moral character. In an emotional speech, John simply stated, "I have always done what I believed was right, and I am grateful that the truth has finally come to light." The ceremony was filled with quiet nods of approval, soft claps of gratitude, and a palpable sense of restored trust. The air in the hall was charged with the understanding that justice, though sometimes delayed, could ultimately prevail over deceit. For John, the experience was both a trial and a reaffirmation of his beliefs, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one must remain true to one's principles. In the days that followed, John Carter's life slowly returned to a semblance of normality. The haunting memories of his wrongful arrest were replaced by the warm glow of community support, and the sincere gratitude of those who had come to understand the truth. Neighbors who had once whispered in doubt now greeted him with open arms, and the local marketplace buzzed with stories of his vindication. At a town meeting convened in the old community hall, several residents expressed their admiration for John's unwavering integrity. "John has always been the heart of our community," one local elder declared, his voice steady with emotion. "Today, we stand united in honoring his selflessness and our collective belief in justice." Even Captain David Turner, who had played a crucial role in unearthing the conspiracy, paid a personal visit to John's farmhouse. Over a modest cup of tea in the warm kitchen, Turner expressed his respect and gratitude. "Your faith in doing what's right has inspired us all," he said quietly. "It reminds us that true service often goes unnoticed until adversity reveals its hidden value." John's eyes, reflecting both the hardships of the past and the promise of a better future, shone with a quiet strength. He accepted the apologies from the authorities with grace, acknowledging that mistakes could be corrected when people were willing to seek the truth. As the village slowly healed, John's farm once again became a sanctuary of hope, a symbol of how honesty and kindness could triumph over jealousy and deceit. The echoes of that difficult period served as a powerful lesson for everyone involved, that the bonds of community and the light of truth could ultimately overcome even the darkest of plots. Thank you for listening to this story. If you like it, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story of Narrative Whispers.